Hi, I'm Dave Maddocks and I'm here beside a nice little Tenchy pond, start of the season, to catch summer's favourite fish. The tench is a fish that exists in all small ponds, big ponds, gravel pits, lakes, everywhere. It's a fish that's accessible to every angler. And this morning, it's just after dawn, it's a murky morning, just the right sort of morning for tench. They don't like too much sunshine. And we're going to have a go for a few fish. I've got some very simple, traditional gear because we're fishing close in. The water's shallow. My brother, Kevin, is beside me. He's got some scaled down carp gear. He's going to fish with some strange, sophisticated methods just to show you what can be used elsewhere. Hopefully we'll both catch some fish here. So let's go and sort out some bait. First thing is the ground bait. Now here I'm going to be using an unusual ground bait. It's a very coarse ground bait and there's a deliberate reason for this. There's a lot of small fish in here and they can be a problem when you're fishing with small baits for the larger fish. So this is deliberately coarse in order to feed off some of the smaller fish. First thing, let's add this sachet of multifunction palatant because I want to make the ground bait a little bit different, a little bit extra zing to it. Let's got that one in there. Just mix it into the water. And now we're going to put in the actual ground bait itself. Doing it this way round, it's a guess to get the right amount in there. It very much absorbs water, so in fact, don't want to make it too thick, but we do need a bit more in there now. So here's the ground bait now. It's nicely absorbing moisture. Quite coarse, as I say, but that's deliberate. You wouldn't use that in waters where there's not many other fish, but here there's lots of small fish and we're trying to feed off the roach and small bream and whatever, gudgeon. It's as fibrous or as hard as you like it. Just compress it. Very nice mix. It's actually a 50% sausage rusk and 50% a coarse cereal mix. And I've just added that sachet of multifunction palatant just to give it a little bit of zip. Now we'll actually have a look at the hook baits. I can clean my hands off. Got some sweetcorn here. This particular one I've already flavoured with honey nectar. It's got a lovely sweet flavour there. And this particular one here, I'm going to put some dye in it and some flavour. In this case, it's going to be strawberry. Tench love sweet flavours, and we mustn't put too much because it's quite strong stuff. There we are. Cool, smell that strawberry. The colour we're going to put in there, really, it's a case of anything you like, but red is a good one. Orange is another good one. Very, very useful if you're fishing a water where sweetcorn has been thrashed to death and the fish are very wary of it. You can change sweetcorn to a completely new bait by flavouring it and colouring it. Look at that. And I can tell you that smells as good as it looks. Gorgeous. Give that a good mix. Now I'm going to be completely plastered with red dye myself. Look at that. One other thing about the flavour, I shall just put a little touch of flavour on my fingers. Let me put that on because it's bound to... and spread it all over my hands. Doesn't hurt at all to get rid of the smells of a human, particularly if, like me, you've got a diesel car or something like that, or you haven't had a wash for a month, maybe. Whatever the reasons, put some flavour all over your own hands. Disguise your own smells. Right, now we can think about fishing. But first things first, let's get some ground bait out in the swim. Not going to use too much because it's a heavy feed. It's a case of feel the way with it. So firstly, just 2 or 3 small handfuls and see how we go. I can always introduce some more if it's going well. That'll do for now. Don't want to overfeed them, but we definitely want to get things going. Right, before we put a bit of corn on there and fish on top of that ground bait, I've got some worms to fish on the ledger rod. Not very good worms, I'm afraid. It's they're reasonable. I'm going to put 2 of those on a size 8. Tench love worms. So meaty flavours, not very lively, are they? See if there's anything else in there. Oh, here's one that's better. Meaty flavours and fruity flavours are the Tench favourite. That one will do, and that one's moving around. No, in fact, they're quite big. I think I'll use just one. There it is, just hooked once. I don't want to impair its movement too much. Look at that. Now, if you're a tench, wouldn't you love that? Let's pop this one out. That'll do nicely. We'll turn the indicator on because we're going to be fishing with a float rod, so we're not going to be watching this ledger rod. Just tighten up to the bait. We need a little bit more line there. Oh. Now that buzzer is just loud enough, if I pull that, to attract my attention if something happens while I'm float fishing. Just going to use 1 grain, so I'm going to pick a nice big grain. There we are. Only using a 14 hook, quite a fine wire one, but a strong one with just a micro barb, just enough so it doesn't pop out. Take the ratchet off that reel so we don't have all this noise. And out. No, let's try again. I want to get that where the ground bait was. That's it. The old buzzer's a bit sensitive, so I'll have to be able to detect a bite from mucking about with the other rod. Look at the state of me. But there we are. Right, come on Tench, we're waiting for you. Now where's the float? I can just see it. I think I'll make that a touch deeper. That's better. I think we've got the depth right now so that we've got a nice bit of quill showing. Just take up a bit of slack on there. Yes. Oh, the old thumb as a brake is stopping it going too far, but it's a long way away. It's going round the corner, in fact. I'm going to have to follow it. Yes, that's the tench. That's what we're after.
Going well, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly is. Lovely. They don't have to be big to really put a bend in the rod and to give you a good scrap. Ugh.
Lovely. They certainly give a good account for themselves, don't they?
Yeah, that's why it's such a good fish. It's present in so many waters. Nothing beats it in the summer. It's not a monstrous fish, but
no, it's not. But it's fighting well.
I think we're beginning to get the better of it now. Huh, famous last words. There we are. Oh, look at that. Super.
Lovely, well done. Oh, the bank's a bit awkward here. You got it? Yeah?
Yep. That's it, the hook's out straight away. I'll put that over there. Look at that. Lovely looking.
You see this on some tench, don't you? These little red blemishes. What are they?
Yeah, I really don't know. If it's bleeding, it's underneath the scales or slime or something.
You do see that occasionally, don't you?
Yeah. What's the other side look like? Very similar.
It's quite a pale coloured fish. They obviously vary depending on the type of water they're in, don't they? Yeah. This is a coloured water, so they tend to be more pale. In a clearer water, they tend to be more dark green, don't they?
They certainly do. That doesn't affect the way they fight. Look at that great big rudder. That's what really gives you the scrap. Lovely, isn't it? Gorgeous. They were once called the doctor fish. It was thought that the slime that was on the surface of tench actually helped ailments in other fish.
Yeah.
But I think that's been disproved with modern science. But they certainly are a smooth, slimy fish. Very, very small scales.
Yeah.
Lovely looking thing.
Golden green, isn't it, sort of?
Olive is the standard description in the textbooks.
Yeah.
But they do vary tremendously from this pale colour to almost black. Anyway, I don't normally use a keep net, but today we're going to use a keep net so we can compare them and look at them after we've finished the day. Let's go and put it in the net.
Right, well done.
That's the first one in the bag. Make sure the point of that hook is free. There we are, a nice single grain of corn. Oh, another little blip on the worm. Presumably we've got some small fish out there playing with the worm because we've had 2 or 3 little twitches, nothing that I could call a run. Gone very quiet. Let's put a little touch more bait out. I don't know if the little fish have moved off. There's certainly no bigger fish about at the moment. Don't want to overdo it. A few grains of corn. See if we can feed off those little fish. You can see the little bits of rusk coming up to the top there now. And the water's fizzing slightly around the float.
Yep. Got one. That's what we're after.
Look at that rod bending. It's super, isn't it?
Lovely, isn't it?
I love that sort of through action there.
Yeah, this is that 1 pound test curve Shimano twin power rods.
Yeah.
Lots of action.
Cool.
Now let's just let a little bit of line out. Ready?
Yep.
There we go.
Lovely.
There we go. I was on 1.5 boilies, but half's gone. There we are.
Tiger tench.
How big do you reckon, Dave?
2 1/4, 2 1/2.
2.5, yeah. I'll just run through what I'm using. This is a 2 ounce semi-fixed lead. As far as the fish is concerned, it's fixed, but it can pull off the rubber if necessary. It's just pushed over a swivel here, just an inline swivel. It's 8 pound main line, and the hook link is Kesmart combi splice. So it's an ordinary sort of braided hook link, but what's unusual about it is inside the braid is multi-strand, and you just peel back the braid to wherever you want it, cut it off, and just, well, you can either leave it like that or you can dab a little bit of glue on it if you want to keep it neat. But it saves having a knot there. So the last 1.5 inches of hook link in this case is very, very supple because it's multi-strand. And I'm using a Partridge Z15 boilie hook, and just a loop on the coming off the Shangata hook, held in place by the silicone tube, to affix mini-boilies. I'm using the KM mini-boilies, cream RM30 flavour. I'll just put a bait on now. They're only 10 mil. These are the sort of rigs you would use for specimen tench on perhaps big gravel pits or reservoirs where the fishing's a bit more difficult. David is showing the normal methods that work well on most waters. But just put this boilie stop on the end of the loop. I can adjust the length of the hair by just pulling that back through, like so. Just check the hook, that's nice and sharp. And this would normally catch shy tench. So we'll just cast that back out again now and hope that one comes along. I'm using a Shimano twin power rod, 11 foot in length. One of the rods is 1 3/4 test curve, and one is just a 1 pound test curve. Really, for tench fishing, normally you'd use £1 to £1.5 test curve. The indicators I'm using is the Fox Micron SXs, and the good thing about these indicators is you've got a sensitivity adjustment here, so if you want you can have lots of bleeps or very few. You can see there's lots of bleeps there for short movement of line, and I'm setting it about halfway at the moment using the Fox Mark II swingers, which has got the sliding weight, but I'm using them in a fairly light set up here. At the moment that doesn't weigh much at all, and I'm pulling off quite a lot of slack because I don't really want the line very tight from rod tip to lead. Tight line in the swim can often frighten the fish, so it's not sunk tight on the bottom, but it's also not tight. It's just fairly loose in the swim, and that will register a drop back if the fish comes towards me.
This one's not dashing about quite so much. Maybe this is a female. Round and round and round in the same spot. Ooh, 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 ooh. Certainly a nice fish, whatever it is.
What do they call a tench that smells?
A stench. Oh, look at that. They're so deceptive. It can only be about
Bambino.
2 pounds.
Bambino.
Cool. Just don't give up. Oh, it. 3.
There's a couple of little leeches on it.
Yeah.
Tiny ones there.
Often you see these little tiny leeches on the fish, but
some people take them off the fish, some don't. It's difficult to know. Some argue leave nature to its own devices, and if you catch carp in the winter, sometimes they got lots in their mouth, and I always pull them out of the mouth.
are there any on the other side?
No, I don't think so.
No, there's only this couple. They're only tiny ones. Certainly not a problem.
Right, another one.
Yep.
You're starting to get a bag of tench now.
Yep. Lovely looking things, aren't they? Can't help but enthuse about them. What with the lovely green and my red fingers, it makes a lovely colour contrast, doesn't it? Let's pop him in the net. No.
Looks like your worm's had its wheat of it.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
No?
Oh, I don't know. Could have been, it's only a small worm, it could have been a little fish. I'm still mucking about with the other rod. Look at it, I've got it between my legs. Oh, guess what?
Oh, it's a gudgeon.
Would you believe it?
Lovely. Lovely fish, son.
Look at that, size 8 hook on a gudgeon.
Lovely fish, aren't they?
Chewed up remains of a worm. Good grief. Look at that. Can't be more than about 4 or 5 inches.
It's usually got a little bit of mauve on it, hasn't it? Yeah, it's got a little
Yeah, it's pale because the water's now quite coloured. This time of year there's lots of activity and
Lovely.
the clay coloured water certainly adds paleness to the fish. He can go straight back.
Well, Mr. Maddocks, you're going to show me exactly what you're doing, all these secret methods and that, while you're catching more fish than me.
Top secret, I think is the answer, yeah. There's the piece of antique equipment. That's the answer.
Oh, that's what I'm lacking, is it?
That's an aerial.
That's funny.
A true
You usually
aerial.
see them on top of roofs normally.
Yeah, but this one works well on a rod.
Yeah, I used to have one years ago. These things tench in it, don't they?
That's right. You can adjust it. It's so free running that it's you get into snags, big birds' nests. You've only got to just pull it. In actual fact, I've got them set so there's a little bit of a drag on there at the moment. But that's pre-war.
But you use this mainly just for good fun, don't you? So you're more in contact with the fish. It's
Without a doubt.
more exciting.
There's no clutch.
You don't have to use one of these
Right.
for tench fishing,
Your
do you?
thumb is the brake on the drum there like that.
Yeah.
And you can apply as much or as little as you need according to where it's going and whatever, and what your gear is. Wonderful stuff. It's pre-war. It came my way courtesy of an old fishing friend that died about 20 years ago. Wonderful stuff.
But I guess you wouldn't advise this for most anglers, especially beginners. They might also want to cast a long way, and it's difficult for a beginner with this sort of reel. So.
Right. It's only of use really if you're fishing still waters close in. It's different if you're trotting running waters. That's a different thing entirely. But it's ideal for this sort of thing where you're only fishing out 2-3 rod lengths. Super. Gives you perfect control. Lovely way of playing fish, but no good if you've got a lot of depth or you've got a long cast to make.
Right.
Light gear like this, it's fine.
Okay.
It's loaded with 3 pounds, which is about the right sort of strength for a little pond like this where you're not expecting a monster.
No
and
weed.
No snags, no problems.
Because I'm using 8 pound line actually, but
yeah.
I'm probably over the top on my gear. But
Yeah.
if I was fishing big gravel pits or big reservoirs for big tench, I would automatically use that size line. But do you think even 8 pounds too strong? I mean, you fish places like Sywell and that, don't you, for tench?
Yeah.
What do you use there?
Well, 6 to 8 pound is ideal for a place like that. It's deep water, big water. It's got a lot of weed beds, and there you really do need more beefed up gear generally. And 6 to 8 pound line certainly.
You're using carp type rigs?
Certainly,
there?
sometimes using fixed leads and boilies. I like to use closer in work up there, for instance with big lumps of paste or with big lobworms, and you can actually fish with slightly sort of less strong gear, but it varies. I mean, that's the sort of gear you'd use in a lot of gravel pits. Lots of gravel pits now have matured. They're deep waters, they're big waters, but you've got lots of weed beds and you've got small numbers of very big fish, and if you start going for them with 3 pound line, you lose a fish of a lifetime. Might spend 6 months getting one.
Yeah. From my experience of fishing big gravel pits for 20 years, carp fishing, I've caught a lot of tench in my time, accidentally. And on most gravel pits, I've had most tench when fishing clean gravel bars rather than the troughs. I fish both when I'm carp fishing, but I tend to get a lot of big tench on boilies when I'm fishing the clean gravel bars. Does that make sense to you? I mean, you're a tench angler much more than I am.
Yep. I must admit, my tench fishing in gravel pits in the Lee Valley, and that tends to be where I've done most of my gravel pit fishing, the bars, even if they're only 2 feet or 3 feet deep, and the trough alongside it might be 8 feet, 10 feet, 12 feet, whatever.
Yeah.
The top of the bar is the place to put your ground bait and to put your bait.
Right.
They seem to patrol and move along the channels, but feed on the bars. They seem to love feeding in the shallow water. It may be because that much shallower, it's actually warmer. I don't know. There's loads of answers in fishing that we don't know. Fortunately, that's why we keep going, isn't it?
I guess tench will take any bait. We've mentioned paste and corn and bread flake, boilies, worms. Is it a case of experimenting a lot of the time?
There's a lot of specialist tench anglers about now, as they certainly seem to have grown bigger over the last few years, and experimenting has been the name of the game. But for 90% of tench anglers, 4 or 5 basic baits will do everything they want, and probably the most useful of all is the sort of fairly modern bait, corn. I can remember before we even started using sweetcorn as baits. You've seen from down here that we can dye it, we can flavour it, we can make it into things that it isn't once fish get a bit wary of it. Lobworms are still an old favourite. As you've seen, we've caught 1 or 2 on worms today. Bread, either in its natural form as flake or crust or flavoured. The staple things.
Maggots, I suppose?
Maggots.
You tend to catch all the other species of maggots, don't you? Small
But
roach.
maggots have their time for tench. Remember, at this time of year now, we're in early summer, and this sort of 6 weeks at the start of the season, tench will take big baits, and they'll take them quite earnestly. But once you get into August, September, they're getting a bit shy. Maggots on a feed along range in a gravel pit, or maggots on the float sometimes. You do get bothered sometimes with other fish, but maggots will take their fair share of tench.
What about the shotting pattern you're using? It looks fairly simple one you're using at the moment.
It's absolutely as simple as can be. I'll put the rod down. The simpler it is, the less there is to go wrong.
Yeah.
I'm using a little bit of peacock quill, we'll come to that in a minute, as a float. I've got one shot about 4 inches from the hook. The hook is a 14. The line, 3-pound reel line, goes straight through to the hook.
It's obviously got to be a very strong hook, even though it's small.
Yeah,
it's got to withstand a hard fight.
Grains of corn, if you use anything that's big, you make your grain very heavy. And remember, they suck up grains, they don't pick them up. If you've got a heavy grain of corn, then you'll find your grain will be still there when all the other ones are being picked up.
Right, so you want a lightweight hook but strong.
Yeah, that's a forged hook, and it's got just a microbarb, so it doesn't actually, it isn't too difficult to get out of the fish.
Right.
I've got one shot there about 3 or 4 inches from the hook because I've been fishing lift style today. Some of the bites have been straight off sideways or straight down, but lift style it is, and all the rest of the weight, not that there is much more, is actually immediately beneath the piece of peacock quill.
Yeah.
So that steadies it.
Yeah.
It's up to there. When the fish lifts that bottom shot up, it comes up, and if you've got the right amount of weights in the right place, it can actually lay flat before sailing away.
Right, I understand, yeah.
And because they're powerful fish, 3-pound line straight through, only can you go that light even when you've got no snags and you're not expecting too big a fish. Bigger fish, snags and things, you might need 4 or 5-pound line because they're very powerful fish. We've seen how they fight.
Yeah, yeah. Now, would you use this same shotting pattern on every water, or do you use different types of floats?
For different places you need to adapt your style, and for deeper fishing and for further distance, I mean the standard range of wagglers that we got now, which go right up to very heavy ones, is certainly the answer. Let's just pick my float box up and I'll show you what I mean.
Yeah. Because I've seen plenty of floats in the shops, but because I'm not a float angler, I wouldn't know how to shot them or why we use, you know.
You notice in here, look, there's always room for my bits of peacock quill. I may be a bit old-fashioned, but you go a long way to sometimes beat the peacock quill on this local fishing.
I gather these are not all Tench floats, are they?
No. These are all still water floats, but there's a big selection of wagglers right up to these big homemade jobs that take 3 or 4 AAA, and you can fish 20 yards or more, and you can cast that far and fish quite deep as well with those.
Right, so you can fish at distance with that sort of
your
float.
shotting needs to be different again. You need some locking shot around the float, which steadies it in flight. I tend to put most of my shots in the top half down towards the hook, and you still need 1 or 2 down at the bottom, of course, for detection.
So the reason for all those shots high up is just for casting weight, I suppose, and stability for the float.
That's right. This one, for instance, it's a thick peacock quill, nice big foam polystyrene body, marked 2 swan shot plus. That's a lot of weight, and that thing will go a long distance. Good for casting against the wind and whatever. Big waters, deep waters, you can use that as a slider.
Right.
And with my eyesight, you most definitely need at least 1 inch of coloured float sticking out. Right. I haven't got any here, but I'd like to have some floats with about 6 inches of orange, because I like to see them from a distance. The only trouble with that much is, of course, you wouldn't get many bites that would be worth having.
Yeah.
So I have to make do and squint. Most anglers, when they've been an angler for quite a few years, you tend to have a box with hundreds of floats with 4 favourites, and you come time and time again back to something like this, which is losing all its paintwork. Look, it's been around. It's seen a good few days fishing, that float.
Yeah.
But it's a lovely float. A homemade one. You can see it's peacock quill.
So there's no such thing as a Tench float. It's the normal floats that most anglers have got in their boxes. Yeah,
absolutely.
I've still got a bait out, so better get back. Okay, see you later.
Rightio, don't catch too many, will you? Now, another bit of corn and away we go again. Look at that. How can you resist that? Quite easily, say the Tench.
Look at that grate in that acer next to you.
Oh yeah. Oh! Oh! Always when you've got your hands full. Where's it going? Oh, it feels a good fish. I think it's going round the corner like the other one did. No, 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 it's coming, it's coming. Oh, here we are, it's down in front of us again now.
That looks a nice fish.
Yeah, yeah, not so bad. It's not quite dashing about like the little males were. I don't know what this is, but it's
You said you'd probably get one before we pack up.
lovely big swirl in the water there. That means a bigger tail. Oh, that's the other line and it got tangled up in there. Forget that one. Yeah, it is a bit better, isn't it? Yeah, it's a good £3 that one.
Yeah, 3.5 I would think.
There's that, look, there's a little leech on there again, you see it?
Yeah.
But they seem to carry odd ones with no problems. It's when they get loads and loads that it's...
Lovely.
Well, as we're finishing, perhaps if you get your camera... I mustn't pretend I caught all of these though. You did catch one.
Yes. One on the scaled down carp rigs.
Yeah.
That's good, isn't it? They're behaving themselves.
They certainly are, aren't they?
If you just float it on the surface. Look at that.
I didn't realise unhooking mats were so useful for this sort of thing.
Tench fishing can certainly be fun.
Super. As one's put itself back. So we gently ease them back.
Put some on there. Lovely.
Look at that.
Oh, I'm just coming up, Dave.
Okay, it's a double, there's room.
Of course, lots of fish down here, aren't there?
Yeah, right underneath us.
Carp, and there's a couple of carp there. Not a particularly good day for spotting, is it, without the sun out?
No, there's a bit of a ripple. But you can see loads of fish down there.
Oh yeah, I can see some tench. There's one.
And it seems to be feeding.
On that bait we put out earlier, the boilies and the corn.
Look at all those tadpoles. They're a nuisance. Oh look, spitting stuff out.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Is that corn or what?
Shredded corn or something by the look of it. Cool, that great big red eye. Is it?
Well, he's certainly feeding, that one is. There's one or two others drifting around, perhaps they'll come in and join him.
Actually, it's a lovely big female, that one. Big fish. And she's dipping down, taking bits of bait.
That's interesting, that, because it's not only feeding on the clear spot, it's feeding on the weed as well, isn't it?
Mm.
And it's not... carp often have a preference, but that fish seems to be feeding anywhere where the bait is.
Notice how she's going over most of the bait before she dips down. There's a lesson there, not to bait up too much.
Why is it's spitting a lot out, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's either... certainly when it takes in the corn it's spitting out again, but perhaps it's spitting the skins out, because I'm sure sometimes they just want the inside.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, there's a whole grain came out that time.
Yeah,
oh, and
there.
a few bits there, look. But every time she does pick up a grain, she's lifting her head up 6 inches off the bottom, enough to get a bite, and hopefully hook it before it gets spat out.
Except you haven't got a hook bait down there.
Well, not at the moment, no. Oh look, she's taken quite a lot, really.
It's a nice fish.
Yeah. The condition of that, lovely big fat chunky fish.
Right, better go and do some fishing, haven't we?
Well, I don't know, I thought we were getting room service up here.
Let's go and do some fishing. See if we can catch one of those tench.
This is the swim I meant.
Yeah.
It's one where we've seen fish and we know that odd tench come in here. The only trouble is,
Oh, there's a lot of weed on the bottom,
chock-a-block with this blanket weed on the bottom, and if you want to fish it with a bit of flake or a bit of sweetcorn or something, you've had it.
Yeah.
So
It's a bit clear there, but it's weed.
yeah, I want to fish further out there where it's 8, 9, 10 feet deep. It's just beginning to level off the bottom of the shelf, as it were, and I know down there it's ever so choked with weed.
Right.
Hence this thing. Now this is the
I hope the
interesting
rope's
bit.
long enough.
Yeah, I hope it's long
Do you want me
enough.
to hold the end, or you want?
I've got the end under my foot. Golden rule weed rakes is hold the end of the rope underneath your foot. See if I can throw it sideways. This is a borrowed weed rake, so I don't know its aerodynamics. Right.
Right.
Well, it's on the bottom. It's not really as far as I wanted it to go, so in fact
No.
I'm going to ask you to hold the end of the rope next time.
Yeah.
Oh, it's coming in quite easy. It doesn't feel like, you can have the end now. Doesn't feel like it's caught on much.
You can see it's not gone far, but the amount of bubbles coming up.
Yeah.
Of course, I suppose the weed rake's better for different types of weed, like the Canadian pondweed and that, rather than silkweed. Mind you, it should pick that
Definitely,
up all right,
although
shouldn't
the idea is that it will just create a bit of bottom that's free of the stuff that it will...
it? And I don't suppose it has to be completely clear, does it?
No.
If it's
No.
mucky and it's recently been
Shouldn't
stirred
be too
up.
bad.
I've got the
Are
end.
you ready to lean forward when it goes?
Yeah.
Right.
So how many times would you normally do this? Half a dozen times?
Yeah.
Or more?
Because you can't be sure it's landing in exactly the same spot, and you can't be sure your
That's-
hook's going to be in the
That's
same
handy,
spot.
all those bubbles coming up.
Oh yeah, you know where it is, and that's actually not just creating a weed-free area. What it is doing is actually stirring up all the organisms living in the mud and creating a cloudy bit within what is a very clear bit of water, and that's hopefully a magnet.
That's got to be an attractor in its own right, hasn't it?
Hopefully it is, yeah.
Right. We're going to put the bait in now.
I was going to put some bait in, yeah. That can go behind there. This is where we've got to be careful. We're so few fish in here, but the last thing we want to do is put 100 grains of corn out there, and
Right.
and then the one tench that comes in has got a little bit of choice, hasn't he? So what we do, we just put a couple of small handfuls.
A bit to the right of that as well. I think quite a few
Yeah, a little,
times the rake landed to the
a
right.
little bit to the right there. That's as much as we want to put in.
Really?
Yeah. We'll put a little bit more in once we start fishing, but one thing we don't want to do is overfeed.
Hello, David.
Ah,
How you getting on?
time you come along. Not so good. Come and have a sit down. Didn't expect a huge amount of action, because don't forget this is a totally different thing. We're faced with a big water, understocked, big fish, and we raked the swim earlier and put some bait out, but hello lady, but there's no signs yet. I've not put any ground bait out, I've just put some loose corn. There's a few tench in here, but this is run as a carp fishery and no tench have been caught for 2 or 3 years, so it's really an unknown entity.
Yeah, I think there's not many in here, but what is in here, you know, are good ones. It's a very rich water, isn't it?
Lots of natural food, lots of weed, which hopefully we've made a nice little hole out there for.
Yeah, well, you've got your float exactly where we raked it. Oh well, can't expect
No.
huge fish immediately, can
All
you?
we can do is sit and wait. I'll just... Oh, there she goes. Oh, yes. Oh, look at that.
Oh, that's a nice fish.
That is certainly a big one. Oh, can you get the net? I think
Yeah.
we're, look at that. Cool.
Lovely, look at that. That's got to be a 3+, hasn't it?
Well, I hope so. All we've got to do is land it first. It's gradually coming in. Come on. Cool. Oh, it's terrible when they keep shaking their head.
Yeah, that's a lovely fish, isn't it, eh? Yeah, got it.
Oh, cool. How about that? Cool.
That's a big fish, yeah. 4 pounder that, I think.
Wow.
Isn't it?
It's going that way. It's deep and thick, isn't it?
Whoa, look at that. What do you think, lady? What do you think? Look.
I think she's ever so interesting. Well, what do you think? There's been a few bubbles and things around here. You like pretending to be a monkey. Why don't you go and climb up that tree?
Actually, I was thinking about that, actually. I could just about see into the swim from up
The beauty of this gin clear water, if you've got your polarising glasses on, you can actually see things when it's only 5 or 6 or 7 feet deep.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll go up and have a look. I don't know if I'll be able to see the bottom out there, because what, you're in 7 foot or something?
Well, I'm 7 here, but it shelves up towards the left-hand side. At the moment, I'm just towards the right-hand side of the swim where we had a rake.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll go and have a look. I'll let you know if there's anything visible.
If you're going to scare anything, can you scare it over this way?
Yes, well, I have fallen out of trees before, I must warn you.
Yeah?
And my feet are a
Yeah.
bit damp at the moment.
You still get up about 50 trees per week and not fall out of them.
I once fell out the very top
Blimey.
of a willow at Redmire Pool.
Ugh.
And it wasn't falling into the water that hurt me, it was hitting the branches on the way down. Could really do with the sun out.
Now you're only about 6 or 7 yards left of my float. Can you see anything?
I think I can see one tench, Dave. Just coming in from the outside of the swim. Just about to see a shape. Yeah, I think it looks like it might be feeding and just about make it out. It's coming slightly towards you now, directly at you. It looks to be in the actual swim where you're fishing. I don't know where your hook bait is, but I should imagine it's pretty close. Yeah, it's definitely a tench. It's quite a nice fish. And it's definitely feeding. Yeah, I'm sure it's picking up the corn. You could get a bite any time. It's upending. There's another fish circling around the outside. It's not actually in the swim at the moment, it's near those trees to your right.
Is there?
Yeah, I think you're probably going to have 2 fish in your swim now. The other one's coming round. It's joining the other one. There's 2 of them together. I say, I don't know where your hook bait is. Can you see anything from down there? I don't think you can. Certainly a nice sight. They're just swinging away from the area now. I expect they'll drift back in again. There's one coming back round again now. Looks like it's feeding again. Yeah, it's definitely feeding. Looks in about the right place for where your hook bait is, or might be.
Hello, 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 hello. Oh, can you stop being a monkey and, oh, here we are. Hello. Look at that. What a lovely bend in that rod. Look, it's right through the rod.
What did I tell you?
Oh,
Running commentary, what was in your swim?
I don't believe it, really. Cool.
There was a couple of very big tench out there.
Were there? I'm not so sure how big this one is, but it's certainly let me know it's on the end.
What rod's that you got there?
This is, hang on, I'll just read it.
Ultegra Match. Shimano Ultegra Match.
Yeah,
13 foot.
It's a new one. They've just brought this out. It's not really a tench rod, but
it looks
when
nice,
you're keen
actually
to try out a nice rod, you perhaps use it where you might not otherwise.
There she is.
Oh, look, the line's wrapped round one of the fins. Right,
might have
I
to go
thought
back
just
a bit,
ease
though.
her back, yes.
Yeah, we got it. Lovely.
Beginning to wonder there. Oh, it's bigger than I thought. Just steady the 312. 3 3/4, yeah. That's not bad, is it?
Nice.
You see the ventral fins here, they've got this scallop shape, both of them, and you've got this strange sort of indentation and odd lumpy bits here, and you can see that there's a change in the way the body shape is indicative of a male. The female, the same size, will be a deeper fish and it'll be just a general rounded bottom end of the body. Lovely looking fish, that one. There, look at that fin there now, look. See the scallop shape. Let's have a look at the one on the other side.
Very
look.
pronounced this side.
There we are.
So it's always a male fish, yeah, that does it.
It's just resting the fins now, but every now and then he'll put them into the
And as you say, you can see the bony shape here.
different
Yeah.
shape. Definitely.
Nice, good specimen tench.
I'm going to pick the orfe up now, and
Yeah.
if I sit down, I'll be easier to do because I'll cover up the tench. Well, it's a difficult water. We didn't know whether we'd get any tench. Oh, God.
Yeah. That's right.
We did get one tench, only one, but we did finish up with an absolute prize as well. 3 pounds 12 ounces of golden orfe. Isn't that gorgeous? Fabulous fish.
Do you want to turn it round for a shot of the other side of it?
Picture on the other side.
Oh, big carp just jumped further up the lake.
Look at that. Look at the red of those fins. Incredible fish, aren't they?
Lovely. Okay, that'll do for
Right.
me. Do the tench, shall we?
Yep. Great big paddle. Look, no wonder they can give you a good fight. Whoa, it's all right, mate. Hang on. Not a monster tench, but a very welcome one.
Can you turn its tail towards me more? That's it.
How's that? Bit better?
Yeah.
Try to let the fin stay in there.
Can you now put it under your head more? Because I'm taking an upright shot and that's making me go very wide.
How's
Bit
that?
more?
Bit more.
That's it, lovely.
Terrific.
Lovely, that'll do for me, thanks.
All right.
Yeah, if you want to put it back.
Yep. Straight into the weed. Look at all the tadpoles down here. Look at them all.
Yeah, there's a lot in the lake at the moment.
Oh, we're just trying to get our nose out of the weed now. Look at that.